What's up, everybody? It's your boy again, the Unabonger, and today I'm gonna rant and rave and give you a little review about Star Wars The Last Jedi. There are spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. I'm probably a couple weeks late and more than a few dollars short with this video, but let's cross our fingies and hope we can get some views with this one, people. Now, while I didn't totally hate The Last Jedi, it still has the same problems as The Force Awakens, and the audience is reminded of this as soon as the movie starts with this fucking stupid ass phone call or whatever the fuck it is from Poe Dameron to some fucking Imperial ginger. I've watched the movie once, and that's all I expect to watch it. But did I hear a fucking your mom joke in there? That might have been funny in one of the prequels. Rey is still a Mary Sue, Kylo still comes off as a joke, Poe is still a half-assed Han Solo, Finn is still kinda there for no reason at all except to be an all-inclusive, non-threatening love interest for Rey, even though she's a dyke and everyone knows it. Leia is so yacked out she can't unclench her jaw when she snorts her lines. Delivers her lines. BB-8 is the Deus Ex Machina and the biggest hero in the entire film. Disney is already trying to be all-inclusive, sucking butts on our future AI Terminator overlords. Finn is kind of a goofy, unnecessary dipshit, just like Episode 7, so I can't say I'm surprised there. What does surprise me is how much screen time he and his new, all-inclusive girlfriend got. I thought their story was lame and forgettable, and they'd still be in the clink on that casino planet that kinda reminded me of the Mos Eisley Cantina if it wasn't for that stupid beach ball robot. Lame. Who fucking cares? It's like action slapstick. The audience doesn't care because the characters are never in any real danger. It's all Disney danger. It's all a ride. Just keep your fucking hands inside the bars at all times. And that side story. Here's the codebreaker, the only fucking guy in the universe who can do it. Whoops, we're idiots. We get thrown in the clink. Now some Gambit-esque felon with a quirky speech impediment tells us he can do it. Then he breaks us out of jail. We go on a chase scene on wild space beasts, but we get cornered by the space popos, only to be saved, once again, by the fucking robot and this convenient felon. Okay. And then towards the end, Finn's gonna kamikaze the giant Imperial space cannon, and they draw it out, like it's actually gonna happen. And you're kinda like, yeah! Save your friends, pal! Finally, be a hero instead of a joke! And then Roundface crashes into him and damn near kills herself, just to gasp out some hippie, make love, not war bullshit, and let Finn know she wants to fuck. Jesus! Same with Poe. Oh, he's the only white male and he's an asshole and gets demoted and some super SJW dressed up like a hippie comes along and is running this dwindling force now, running to their death, and he mutinies and... Oh, who fucking cares? If I thought about it too long, all I'd say are all the lame plot holes and logical fallacies. No! Stop it! Also, the movie is basically one long hyperspace chase scene with the Empire chasing the last remnants of the rebellion. It looked cool at times, but it wore thin pretty fast and revealed itself as a pretty weak plot point, if not the weakest in a movie full of them. But hey, what do you really expect from a Star Wars movie? George Lucas did that shit all the time, man. Luke's swan song was kinda lame and lackluster. Yeah, I would have liked to seen him been more portrayed as the badass from Return of the Jedi too. But his story and what he became wasn't totally out of character. As Luke aged, he became more like, oh shit, his father! Well, that makes sense. Luke thought about striking down Kylo like Anakin did when he struck down all the younglings and became Vader. I quite liked that twist, and I felt it was pretty in character, actually. It's one of the few things in this movie that made sense in a Star Wars way, if that makes sense. Yoda went into seclusion, Obi-Wan went into seclusion. It's not too far a stretch, especially with the cyclical nature of the story of Star Wars, that Luke would go into seclusion as well, especially after failing a Padawan that went to the dark side, just like what happened with Obi-Wan and Anakin. I understand the fear of hardcore fanboys thinking they're gonna get retconned Luke Skywalker, the hero of the original trilogy and redeemer of Anakin Skywalker, into Old Man Skywalker as a creepy space chomo who turned Kylo to the dark side with one too many knee touches. But I don't think that's gonna happen. With the fan reaction already, they'd be stupid as fuck to do that shit. And the bit that didn't make sense. Luke kinda should have been down for Rey confronting Kylo to turn him back to the light side, because that's exactly what Luke did to change Vader right at the end of his life. And yeah, Luke had a lot of setbacks and what have you, it seemed, but what was it that made Luke not want Rey to reach out to Kylo like he did with Vader? From his own experience, he should have been more down with that idea, but he was totally against it? What? While this movie was kind of a remixed homage to the original trilogy, I felt the heavy-handed homage in this movie was a bit less expected. One scene I'm specifically referring to is the throne room scene where Kylo brings Rey to Snoke. While there were some real problems with it, it was a callback to the scene where Vader brings Luke to Palpatine in Jedi. Well, I guess I have to call it Return of the Jedi now. Anyway, I dug that scene, but killing off Snoke this soon and so sloppily was kind of fucking lame. I hope the fan theory is true and Snoke was Palpatine in a cloned body and he pops up again in Episode 9. And the final showdown between Kylo and Luke made sense to me as well, and had a tip of the hat to Obi-Wan's sacrifice to let Luke and his friends get away in A New Hope. But he didn't give Kylo the satisfaction or power of striking him down, so he won that battle in a Zen sort of way, even though he ended up dying because of it, or more like transcending into the Force like Yoda did. Once again, I think a lot of the things they did with Luke in particular actually make sense, and bring a long story to a logical and satisfying ending. Now, while I didn't hate the Leia flying through space as much as everybody else did, it's Disney now, guys. Come on, the Force gives you powers, like an X-Man or a Hulk or something, you know? But knowing that she wasn't coming back for Episode 9 without the aid of CGI, that probably would have been the best time, and most emotionally impactful too, to kill her off. But what the fuck do I know? And now, we get the most pressing and important question of the whole movie. What was the deal with Luke milking that space beast and Rey giving him that look as he was drinking the milk? Now, I actually have an explanation as to what that was about, which was the running, unspoken theme of the whole fucking movie, which was the worst part of the movie. The Force is female. I did find myself entertained in the theater and wanted to see what was going to happen. I was enthralled, but all this politically correct, all-inclusive, you go girl bullshit getting shoved down the fanboys' throats makes me, and I'm sure a lot of others, want to fucking puke. Now, from the box office sales, it looks like a lot of fans aren't all that excited to see Star Wars anymore. Now, you could blame this on Netflix, the economy, sexism, whatever boogeyman you want to point your finger at, all except Disney and the specific people who made this movie, who are the ones to actually blame. These purple-haired social justice warriors have infiltrated the college education system and the mainstream news and media outlets, and they're breaking and co-opting popular franchises to make them for a broader audience, which is code for not whitey. Fuck the patriarchy, we need heroes for little girls and queers, yeah! Our sales are in the shitters with this marketing stance, but fuck white males, this is ours now! Fuck all that bullshit. I'm sure you noticed how most of, if not all, the rebel leaders were women. We gotta have Leia be a general, which actually makes sense, but then we throw in all these women in uniforms who do what exactly? Huff around and belt out orders pretending to be a fucking war hero? Laura Dern is some purple-haired general who is basically just a stand-in for Leia. Carrie Fisher's daughter thrown in because she's Carrie Fisher's daughter. That sentence right there basically sums up the whole issue. Nepotism always wins out over actual talent or work. It's not what you do or what you know. It's who you know and who you blow. Just because somebody figured out anybody in the fucking world can put on a suit and shout some orders in a fucking movie doesn't mean the audience is gonna buy it. That a woman can go into a combat situation and whoop a man's ass, even if he is an inept stormtrooper that can't aim for shit. The audience isn't gonna suspend their disbelief that fucking much. Hell, maybe that's why the rebellion is sucking hind tit in the first place, all these women running this shit. And now we come to Amanda Lawrence, who is... who exactly? Yeah, I have no fucking idea either, but her ugly British ass was on screen way too often, just to belt out some bullshit orders. She should have been cast as Snoke and they could have saved some money on CGI because that bitch is fucking mangled. I have no idea what this ugly British bitch has been in before, but she is not a primetime player yet. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb here and guarantee you she will never be in any big-time movie that anyone ever sees again. If somebody punched her in the nose and broke it and she had to get a nose job, it would be the best thing that could happen to her career. And again, what was her contribution to this movie? Another fucking dyke jumping on camera for 2 seconds to belt out some bullshit orders. She's got a nose only a plastic surgeon could love. And poor Carrie Fisher. Man, you can tell she was not doing well in this movie, and considering the toxicology report after her death and how tight she had her teeth gritted every time she delivered a line, pretty sure that's not the only line she was going over. Nah, mean? And Laura Dern goes ahead and affirms the stereotype and ends up being the worst driver in the fucking universe. Hell, now it makes sense all these high-ranking rebels were women. They can't stop losing and they can't drive either. But I will admit, it looked cool. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it looked cool, and that probably indicates that's how it was thought up. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if a spaceship in hyperdrive ran into another spaceship? Or the Death Star or a planet or some shit? And everyone in the writer's room kind of said, yeah, that sounds great! Now, how do we make it happen? And it kind of went downhill from there. Glad to see Laura Dern is still getting work, though. Actually, I couldn't care less. What the fuck has Laura Dern ever been in that's been worth a fuck? Kill Bill? Oh shit, that was Daryl Hannah. My bad. Now, here's the ultimate thing, though. And this is going to be a hard pill for a lot of you fanboys to swallow. But Star Wars isn't for you anymore. Disney has got a company-wide mandate to make all the dykes and queers heroes for kids now. Go take a look at the toy aisles in Walmart and Target. And they're failing. They're making this franchise they paid $4 billion for worth less and less by the movie. And yeah, it hurts me right in the childhood too. But the good news is, I'm not a fucking little kid anymore, and neither are you. While the current track they're on is failing, you gotta give them credit that they are trying to go in a new direction and add to the mythos. They're not just regurgitating the same old shit. Not totally, at least. They'll course correct once the bean counters have come in and tell them how much money they didn't make but should have. The same thing is happening at Marvel Comics right now. Disney, you're shitting on your established audience to chase some supposed more mass audience, more inclusive audience with Rey, with all these fucking women on screen. These media companies are under the impression that to be entertained, readers and viewers need to see themselves as the hero, and sales are showing that's not the case, but I think they're finding that out pretty quickly. Little girls don't want to dress up and go outside and play around with a laser sword. Little girls don't want to run around and play action hero like little boys do. And while Disney is still insisting that this is the case, all those unsold action figures and lightsabers and all those empty seats will make them realize otherwise. Failure is the best teacher, and nothing makes you feel dumber than losing money. Yeah, girls are getting more into comics, and by that I mean they watch the movies and they go to Comic-Con when it's in town and dress up like the bimbo of the week and run around with their tits out in public. Yeah, they're getting into it, becoming part of the fandom, but they're a pretty lukewarm fandom. No pun intended. They know who these characters are now because of the movies, but that doesn't really translate to movie or comic sales, and as the market gets more and more flooded with superhero movies, that's becoming past saying, old too. These movies aren't for you anymore, fanboy. They're for little kids. The prequels weren't for me, and I was in high school and college when those came out. I saw them all in the theater, once, and I'm sure I'll see this new trilogy too, once. But they still gotta get butts in the seats and eyes on the screen, and this doesn't really seem to be doing it. See, Disney has to create new characters for the Star Wars franchise. The original characters are too old, kids don't care about them, and a more real problem is, the actors playing them are too fucking old. Carrie Fisher's dead, man. See, Disney is doing the same thing with the Marvel movies and expanding the same thing into Marvel Comics now, too. In the movies, Robert Downey ain't getting any younger, so instead of ending that movie franchise, what you do is recast. And you can either recast and pretend it's the same character and hope the audience buys it, or you can recast as completely new characters, which is what they're doing. Just take a look at Marvel Comics for the past few years. This was the testing ground. But it didn't work. And the editor-in-chief got thrown out on his ass because he tried to shove new characters down fans' throats, and it didn't fucking work. But in comics, Steve Rogers is always 30 years old. That's how the artists will always draw him. Comics don't have the same limitations as real life and movies, so when you think about it, Disney has to try to keep this franchise alive and going. Now I've got a question. Does Kylo actually know who Rey's parents were, or was he just bullshitting her? And how the fuck would he know anyway? That was probably just some bullshit Snoke was putting in his head as well. Personally, my guess is that in Episode 9, they'll reveal that Rey was actually an immaculate conception from the Force again, kinda like Anakin, except she just came to be, materialized out of nowhere, and no woman was raped by midi-chlorians or whatever the fuck supposedly happened. I feel as though everybody after seeing The Force Awakens was like, it was better than the prequels, and it's new Star Wars, so I'm riding high from that. I liked it alright. But now it's like, you did Luke dirty. I fucking hate this shit. There will be more Star Wars movies. It's just that Disney doesn't want them to be about one family out of everyone in the entire galaxy anymore. And I get the idea behind this decision, I really do. I just don't think it's going to work out the way they wanted it to. And once they kill Kylo in Episode 9, the Skywalker line will be gone. All links to the original trilogy will be gone. And Disney won't have to shell out millions and millions of dollars to keep actors happy anymore. They can just kill them off and make new ones if they deem fit. Guys, these big media corporations will always go back to the well for a sure buck. And I agree, I will gladly give them that dollar just for the feeling of nostalgia and to see what they're gonna do with it. But the good news is, no matter how much The Phantom Menace sucks, no matter how many sequels DC Comics makes to The Dark Knight Returns or Watchmen, the originals are still there. And even in the case of Lucas fucking that up on the original trilogy and adding all that digital bullshit, the worst part being taking out the Yub Yub song at the end of Return of the Jedi, the originals are still there in my mind. they're still in my heart, man. They're still there in that nostalgia, and you don't always get to take those things from childhood with you for the rest of your life. And while it hurts right in the childhood, that's life, man. Suck it up. Or are you gonna just sit there bitching and moaning like a little kid about how a fictional character wouldn't do that just because you fucking say so? I just went to this movie because it's a cultural event. Just like the prequels. Man, they weren't that good, but you still had to see them in the theater, you know? It's fucking Star Wars, man. That's why the theaters exist. Also, another thing wrong with how Disney handles Star Wars is that Star Wars is a summer movie. Everybody knows this. I know Disney doesn't want to put out tentpole movies at the same time, and Marvel movies are still kicking ass. But Star Wars is a summer movie, and to have it at Christmas is just wrong. I don't know how to explain it, it just is. Family dramas with the fate of the entire fucking galaxy at stake are too much of a downer for the holiday season. This is a corporate tentpole summer action movie released at Christmas time marketed to little girls. And while it's still making money hand over fist, it's not performing as its corporate overlords want. Which is actually a good thing for the hardcore fanboys, because just like the Force, balance will naturally happen again. And in this case, it will be because of the empty theater seats and unsold action figures and lightsabers in the little girls' toy aisles at Walmart and Target. If you were to subtract all the unnecessary you go girl bullshit, I'd give this movie a 6. And if you were to cut out Finn scenes, or at least kill him off, I'd add another 2 points to it. And if Luke didn't get knocked on his ass by a girl who had held a lightsaber twice before this fucking movie, and he didn't have a fake lightsaber duel to the death, I'd have fucking loved it. But as it stands, it's just like a prequel to me, in that it's just not for me. I can all but guarantee you I'll never watch it again, unless I see it in a couple years on TNT. That's all I got for you this time, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. Be sure to check me out on Twitter at the Unabonger. And as always, be sure to hit the pipe harder than you hit your wife and kids.